Was there any moment in your life that you played a video game that's not fighting games, but felt like you're playing a fighting game eventually?
Yeah, I guess the biggest one for me was Bust a Groove,
Bust a
which is
Groove,
so Bust a Groove.
yes.
Not so in Japan the game was called Bust a Move, but Bust a Move is a game in the U.S. that is called Puzzle
Puzzle
Bobble in
Bobble,
Japan,
yes.
right? So there's this
Naming
puzzle game,
mix-ups.
naming mix-ups. But I'll just say Bust a Groove because everyone will know what that game is if I say it like that. There was a sequel, but basically it's this dance fighting game, which is
Okay.
it's like a rhythm fighting game. And rhythm, Parappa the Rappa was a very famous PlayStation rhythm game, and there were like these rhythm games at the time. I think people are still making them. Of course, there's like Beat Mania, and this game was interesting because there was a 1v1 mode, and basically your character, you would choose a character, and they would have certain dance moves. You just press certain button combinations during between each beat.
Yep.
And then you have to time it to the beat. And if you can do that, you'll dance successfully. But they had one mechanic where you can throw garbage or attack your opponent.
Oh.
And you could attack your opponent, and if your opponent saw that coming, if they were able to put the right input by the next beat, then they would dodge it. So it wasn't that was pretty much the only mechanic that you had to like mess up the other person.
The rhythm game aspect was the combo of that game, right?
Well, yeah, it was kind of you can kind of see it as a combo. So there was like, you had to time throughout the whole match. You were timing these things, right? And I remember they made a sequel to that game, and I bought the Japanese version.
Okay.
I had the US version and the Japanese version because the music was different. Because they had was it Japanese lyrics for the Japanese version and English lyrics for the.
Do they have like licensed music as well, like for different regions?
No, they
Is that
just
the
made it
reason
for the
why?
game. They just made it, and so like they
okay.
just thought like, okay, we can't, if we were selling this to like the U.S. market,
The
we can't
Western
have
audience, right?
suddenly all the songs are in Japanese and they can't understand, right? So they use the same music, but they just got a different singer, and so it was really interesting to have kind of both. And I actually prefer the Japanese song recordings better. But I mean,
the
they're
same
both good
preference
games.
for me for anime.
Yeah,
I prefer the Japanese dub.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yes.
But no, I understand that. But it was definitely a fighting game on a very, very deep primal level,
So
because
it's
you're
a
like playing
digital
people.
dance off.
Yeah,
pretty
it's a
much.
dance off, and
And
so
if you drop a beat, you're dropping your combo.
yeah, basically, and you're doing a combo the whole time. And so they actually had this game in the arcade as well. When I was in Korea one year, I went to the arcade, and
Like
this
a
game was
coin-op?
Yeah, there was a coin-op version, and it was like weird.
I think I remember.
Yeah, they had like these big, like those like dome buttons,
Right,
or
right, right.
those I don't know, like
Like
the
the,
Bishibashi
Bishibashi
buttons.
machines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But they had like those buttons, but like you could actually play that game in the arcade, and there was like it was like a fighting game that you had like people side by side that were playing, and I remember there was like lines of people watching.
Damn,
And I
okay.
remember like I played this person, and we both got a perfect score on. We just got a perfect on our rhythm aspect, and we attacked each other, and we just dodged all of our attacks. So we just dodged each other, and we got a perfect score, and it was a tie at the end.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, this is kind of, that's not good design then, right? If it's like, if it's too easy to defend, and
Right.
so the game in terms of like a 1v1 fighting game, I don't think it was completely fleshed out like as this super competitive game.
Because I think the point of the game wasn't to beat the opponent. It was rather to test your rhythm abilities, I suppose.
Well, yeah, it was kind of, that was more the focus. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, we both got perfect scores, so we should high five each other. But then that's not the fighting game spirit, right? The
Fighting
fighting
game
game spirit is like,
is
I
beat the other guy
beat
no
the other
matter
person.
what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crush your opponent, right? It's like, oh, we have ties. We're also good at this game. We're all getting
We
ties.
both win.
We everybody wins. It's like that took it away a little bit. So I've always had an idea of like, I kind of, if I ever were to ever make an indie game or game development, I want to go more in like a fighting game rhythm kind of game, but like really put more fighting game
Right.
elements in there. So I'm definitely inspired by Busted Groove and
That's
you know, those
awesome.
games. So it's
By the way, don't get any hopes up if you're a fighting game developer and listening to this, please do not add things like double wins. There's a reason why double KOs exist so that can both lose.
Yeah, double KOs both losing now, right?
Nobody gets around.
Yeah. Oh wait, actually, it depends on which game you're playing.
Yeah, but I think the modern fighting games, if you double KO in the ranked match, they both the scores cut down for both players.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
Nobody wins.
Yeah.
And even in the CPT rules, if they get a double KO and it's the deciding match, that whoever's gonna win off of that, they have to rematch the game.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I kind of like that.
Fighting games are becoming soft, guys. If think of a way
I'm part of the problem.
Think of a way to double KO both participants so that they both go to the losers bracket. Ooh.
Yeah.
Maybe that's too harsh, but yeah.
Yeah, well, but yeah, there's games that have a fighting gaminess that aren't, classically considered fighting games.
Yeah.
And I think you have a game that you're pretty good at that's like this, right? You were actually
so for me, if I were to be asked the same question, my first ever time that I thought this was a fighting game was a game called Heavy Smash. So Heavy Smash is a mixture of European handball and fighting. So European handball is, if you've seen the Olympics, right? They can run with the ball and then they have to throw the ball towards where the goal is and there's a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But this game was like that, but you could like tackle or shoot lasers against each other to steal the balls. So Heavy Smash wasn't really a popular game. Yeah. But if you guys know what I'm talking about, do look it up. It's a pretty cool game by Data East.
Okay.
Yeah. So I play that sometimes when I want to warm up as well.
Okay.
But I do have a showcase material where in my local venue back in Australia, we had a Puzzle Fighter tournament because Puzzle Fighter came out as a collection in one of the past Capcom games.
Yeah, that's right.
And we thought it'd be cool to have a tournament and see how the hype goes.
Yeah. Now, so this is very interesting, right? Because there is a lot of hype, and I think one of the games that I kind of got into as a spectator was Puyo Puyo Tetris, where seeing high level play in that game, like DDR Dan and like there are a few other players that were just so good at the Tetris portion that I was just like, oh, I have to. Well, everyone knows Tetris, right? And you see someone like being godlike in Tetris in that game. It's fun to watch, and because I got into that, I started getting into the Puyo Puyo aspect, right? And that game is kind of sold as like, if you go into the tutorial mode, they talk about like, oh, this is what in the West they play Tetris, and in the East there's Puyo Puyo, and so now we're combining these, and in a sense it kind of worked because like you kind of have to play those two games and they go back and forth, and it's actually kind of in a certain sense it's a complicated mechanic because you're learning two big games.
That's like their own Street Fighter Cross Tekken kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, to their communities. Yeah.
And and you also pick characters, right? This is kind of an interesting thing about these puzzle games. But I guess the thing that's really missing from these kind of puzzle games, as hype as they are, is that you don't have the character aspect, right? So a big part of fighting games is you want to be like Magneto. You want to be Chun-Li.
That sense, I can tell you, Puzzle Fighter, the characters do matter because they have different garbage patterns.
Oh, they have different patterns. Okay.
So there is actually a tier list in Puzzle Fighter. You know how the garbages fall?
Yeah.
The color pattern is unique to each character.
Yeah.
So the more complicated they are, technically they're the higher tier. In Puzzle Fighter, if I remember correctly, again, it was Akuma.
Yeah, okay.
He had the diagonal pattern of the colors. So once the colors turn into a breakable block, it's very difficult to blow them up compared to the horizontal or the vertical ones. So there was a tier list in that sense for Puzzle Fighter.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think puzzle games do that. They'll have like the characters kind of have different abilities and skills. But I guess the problem is that it's just the characters don't have to be that character, right?
Definitely.
They can just like there's no like grappler and like a small character that affects the hitboxes and hurt boxes. Like in a game in a puzzle game, you can just have stick figures for everyone. You don't if Puzzle Fighter didn't have the Street Fighter IP, you could have had any IP and had pretty much the same game, right? So It's I guess that's the thing with puzzle games, and even Puyo Puyo Tetris has a bunch of characters, and you can unlock them.
Sure.
And so
But were they cosmetic or were they? Did they affect
I forget.
the
I
game?
was never good. I was a spectator, so I wasn't like. I had some friends who were pretty good at the game, but as far as I know, it was more of a cosmetic thing.
The visual aspect didn't matter as much as your traditional fighting game goes.
Yeah. So yeah, I do think these kind of games that have the fighting gaminess are definitely something that you could have in a fighting game tournament. And if you go to some tournaments, you'll see these games being played like all over the place. People will have either their own setups or they might have a side tournament. But these games are out there. Catherine is a big one that was very hot at one point.
It was an Evil too at one point.
Yeah,
yes.
a lot of people were getting into that game, and there is that fighting gaminess aspect. But yeah, I guess this kind of goes into what what a fighting game is in the hybrid category. Is it's one where it's taking elements from other games, right?
That's
and then
right.
one of the big points. This is actually kind of a something that I'm a bit proud of for finding is the fact that the simulator is kind of a genre which can be hybridized with other game genres, right?
Yeah.
So like a fighting game simulator is definitely not even